The broken ship. The orbital station Zenith 7 floated in the darkness of space like a metal flower, its petals made of docking bays that stretched toward the stars. Inside Bay 14, a crowd of alien engineers stood in a circle, their various appendages crossed in the universal gesture of giving up. At the center of their attention sat the Quantum Runner, a Valerian heavy cruiser that had limped into the station 3 days ago. Its quantum drive core had failed mid-jump, leaving the ship stranded between star systems. Now it sat silent and cold, its engines dark, its crew desperate. "It cannot be done," announced Chief Engineer Thraxos, a towering Valerian with blue skin and 4 muscular arms. His voice echoed through the bay with the finality of a judge's verdict. "The core has suffered a cascade failure. The quantum matrices are shattered. We would need to replace the entire system, and the nearest facility capable of manufacturing a new core is 14 light-years away." The ship's captain, a smaller Valerian named Kelrus, slumped against a support beam. Her crew of 47 souls depended on her, and she had no solution. "How long would we survive on station life support?" 3 months, Thraxos replied grimly. "Maybe 4 if you ration strictly. But rescue ships cannot reach us faster than 5 months. "I am sorry, Captain." A voice cut through the despair, speaking in heavily accented but clear galactic standard. "Mind if I take a look?" Every head turned toward the source. Standing at the edge of the crowd was a human, barely reaching the chest height of the shortest Valerian present. She wore grease-stained coveralls and carried a battered toolbox that looked older than some of the ships in the bay. The unlikely volunteer. Her name was Maya Chen, 28 standard years old, and she'd been working as a freelance mechanic on Zenith 7 for the past 6 months. She had cropped black hair, oil smudges on her cheeks, and the confident posture of someone who'd spent her whole life making broken things work again. Thraxos's 4 eyes narrowed. "Human, this is not a matter of tightening bolts or replacing fuel lines. This is advanced quantum engineering. My team includes specialists from 7 different species, each with decades of experience. We have exhausted every option." "Sure," Maya said, walking forward without waiting for permission. "But did you try hitting it with a hammer?" A ripple of offense passed through the gathered engineers. A Krell technician, whose species had mastered faster than light travel when humans were still discovering fire, clicked his mandibles in irritation. "This is not a primitive combustion engine, human. Quantum cores operate on principles that require—" "Yeah, I know," Maya interrupted, setting down her toolbox with a metallic thunk. "Quantum entanglement, probability matrices, subspace field generation. I read the manual. Well, I read most of it. The important parts, anyway." Captain Kelrus stepped forward, studying the human with new interest. "You understand quantum drive mechanics?" "Not really," Maya admitted cheerfully. "But I understand when something's broken and when something's just confused. Your core isn't dead, it's just forgotten how to work. Happens all the time with complex systems." Thraxos made a sound like grinding stones. "That is the most ridiculous." "Let her look," Kelrus interrupted. The captain had heard stories about humans, about their strange approach to technology, their refusal to accept impossible situations. What did she have to lose? "What do you need?" Maya cracked her knuckles. "Access to the engine room, a ladder because you people build everything too tall, and about 6 hours. Also, coffee if you have it. The real stuff, not that synthetic paste." Inside the heart of the ship. The engine room of the Quantum Runner was a cathedral of technology, all smooth curves and pulsing lights, or it would have been if the lights were pulsing. Now it sat dark and silent, the massive quantum core at its center looking like a dying star wrapped in metal. Maya climbed up on the maintenance platform, pulled out a handheld scanner that looked like a toy compared to the sophisticated equipment the Valerian engineers carried, and started poking around. Thraxos watched from below, his arms crossed. "The diagnostic readings are clear. The quantum matrices have experienced catastrophic misalignment. The probability fields have collapsed. Even if we could access the core's interior without destroying it, which we cannot, the repairs would require equipment we do not possess." "Aha," Maya muttered, not looking up. She was tracing power conduits with her fingers, following them like she was reading Braille.
You ran a full system diagnostic?
Of course.
And you tried a hard reset? Obviously. Did you try unplugging it and plugging it back in?
The silence that followed was profound.
Finally, Thraxos spoke with measured patience. Human, this is not a home entertainment device. You cannot simply disconnect a quantum drive core and hope it repairs itself.
Maya turned to look at him, her expression thoughtful. No, but you can interrupt the feedback loop that's keeping it stuck in a failure state. See, your diagnostic was right about the cascade failure, but wrong about what caused it.
This wasn't mechanical damage.
It was a software panic.
A Krell engineer scuttled forward. Quantum cores do not have software.
They operate on hardwired quantum circuits that.
Yeah, they do, Maya said, pointing at a junction box. Right there. You've got a translation layer that converts pilot input into quantum instructions. It's basically the core's brain, and it had a stroke. The matrices aren't broken, they're just stuck in an error loop, constantly trying to execute an impossible calculation. She pulled out what looked like an ancient multi-tool from her pocket. I need to access that junction box. Who's got a quantum-safe screwdriver? Nobody? Seriously? Fine, this regular one will probably work.
The heretical fix. What happened next would be debated in engineering schools across the galaxy for years to come. Maya Chen, human mechanic with no formal training in quantum physics, did something that should have been impossible. She opened the junction box, which made every engineer present gasp, because exposing quantum circuits to normal space should have caused immediate decoherence. She then proceeded to short-circuit 3 of the safety protocols using a length of copper wire from her pocket.
Do not do that. Thraxos roared, but Maya had already moved to the next step.
She pulled out her personal data pad, the kind used for entertainment and messaging, and connected it to the junction box using an adapter that she'd apparently made herself from spare parts. Your core got confused because someone tried to execute a jump while the navigation computer was still calculating coordinates, Maya explained as she typed. It's like trying to tell someone to go somewhere before you know where that somewhere is. The core panicked, shut down all non-essential functions to protect itself, and now it won't restart because it thinks the bad command is still waiting. Her fingers flew across the screen. So I'm just going to go in here, delete the command queue, tell the core to stop being dramatic, and give it a nice simple instruction it can actually handle.
Like, I don't know, generate a stable field at minimum power.
Baby steps.
She pressed enter. Nothing happened for 3 long seconds.
Then the quantum core hummed. It was a quiet sound, almost gentle, like a giant waking from sleep.
Lights began to glow across its surface, dim at first, then brighter.
The diagnostic panels around the room flickered to life.
Thraxos stared at his readouts in disbelief. The matrices are realigning. The probability fields are stabilizing.
The core is generating power.
How did you? This should not be possible. Maya climbed down from the platform, wiping her hands on her coveralls.
My dad used to fix vintage cars back on Earth. Really old ones, from before we had computers in every vehicle.
He taught me that machines are like people.
Sometimes they don't need major surgery, they just need someone to talk them through a panic attack and remind them how to breathe. Captain Calrus approached slowly, as if afraid sudden movement would break the spell.
The core is operational?
Give it an hour to finish the startup sequence, Maya said, packing her tools. Then run a full diagnostic. It should be good for another 50,000 light-years, but I'd recommend updating your safety protocols so this doesn't happen again.
Also, whoever tried to jump while the NAV computer was still thinking needs to be more patient. The captain's face flushed darker blue, apparently the Valerian equivalent of blushing. That may have been me. We were under attack and I was hasty. No judgment, Maya said. Panic makes everyone stupid. That's why good engineering is mostly about planning for stupid. The offer. As Maya headed for the exit, Thraxos called after her. Wait. Human. Maya. That was. I have been an engineer for 43 years. I have studied under the greatest minds in the galaxy. What you just did violated every principle of quantum mechanics I understand. It should not have worked. Maya shrugged. Maybe that's the problem. You understand it too well. Sometimes when you know all the reasons something can't work, you forget to try the dumb solution. My dad used to say that engineering isn't about knowing everything, it's about trying everything and seeing what works. That is the most unscientific approach to problem solving I have ever heard, Praxos said. Then, slowly, he spread all four arms in a gesture of respect. And yet, the core functions. Perhaps there is wisdom in your madness. Captain Kelris stepped forward. Maya Chen of Earth, you have saved my ship and my crew. I am in your debt. Whatever payment you require.
Station credit is fine, Maya said.
Standard emergency repair rates. And maybe some good references? I'm trying to build a reputation here.
You will have more than references, Kelris promised.
You will have fame.
The mechanic who fixed the unfixable. The human who solved a problem 7 species of engineers could not.
Maya looked uncomfortable. I mean, they probably could have figured it out eventually. I just got lucky with the quick and dirty solution. That's kind of a human specialty.
A Krell engineer who had been silent until now spoke up, his translator giving his words a musical quality.
Quick and dirty solutions that should not work but do. Yes, we are beginning to understand this about your species. Tell me, is all human engineering like this? Pretty much, Maya admitted. We've got a saying, if it's stupid and it works, it's not stupid.
Also, duct tape fixes everything, never trust a machine that's too clean, and when in doubt, percussive maintenance.
Percussive maintenance?
Thraxos repeated slowly.
Maya grinned. Hitting things until they work again.
It's more effective than you'd think. The engineers stared at her in collective horror and fascination. Here was a species that had reached the stars not through careful understanding of cosmic principles, but through trial and error, improvisation, and a fundamental refusal to accept that anything was truly impossible. As Maya walked out of Bay 14, toolbox in hand, she didn't notice the way the gathered aliens watched her go. She didn't hear Thraxos mutter to his colleagues about requesting human engineers for future missions. She didn't see Captain Kelris making notes about recruiting humans for her crew. She was already thinking about her next job, a stuck airlock on Bay 23 that the maintenance team said needed complete replacement. Maya suspected it just needed someone to wiggle the right parts in the right order. That was tomorrow's problem. Tonight, she'd earned herself a hot meal and a full night's sleep in her tiny quarters. The station didn't pay much, but the work was steady and interesting. Every day brought new challenges, new broken things that needed fixing, new impossible problems that turned out to be simple once you stopped overthinking them. This was why she'd left Earth, after all. To find places where a mechanic with more guts than training could make a real difference. The galaxy was full of brilliant engineers who knew everything about how things should work. But sometimes what you needed was someone who knew how to make them work anyway. Part 2, The Challenge. Word spreads. 3 weeks after Maya fixed the quantum runner, her life changed in ways she hadn't expected. Captain Kelris had kept her promise about references, and apparently saved an entire crew from slow death in space was the kind of story that spread fast through the station's rumor networks. Maya's message queue was now flooded with repair requests. A Hivar merchant wanted her to look at a climate control system that 6 technicians had declared beyond repair. A Zenti hauler captain needed help with a gravity generator that kept fluctuating. A diplomatic vessel had a translator unit that randomly switched languages at inappropriate moments during negotiations. She took every job she could handle, working 14-hour days and loving every minute of it. Each repair was a puzzle, and Maya had learned young that she was very good at puzzles, especially the kind that came with an instruction manual everyone said couldn't be ignored. But not everyone was impressed. The Guild of Certified Engineers had a chapter on Zenith 7, and they'd been watching Maya's rising reputation with growing irritation. The Guild prided itself on maintaining strict standards. Members underwent years of training, passed rigorous examinations, and followed established protocols for every repair.
Maya Chen had none of these qualifications. She worked from instinct, improvisation, and what she called educated guessing. Her tools were ancient by galactic standards. Her methods were unorthodox at best, dangerous at worst. And she was making guild members look bad. The guild's complaint.
Maya was elbow deep in a malfunctioning food synthesizer, trying to figure out why it kept producing everything in shades of purple, when station security arrived at her workshop.
Maya Chen?
The officer, a Valerian with ceremonial armor that marked him as administrative rather than enforcement, stood in her doorway looking uncomfortable.
That's me, Maya said, not looking up from the synthesizer's protein matrix. If this is about the noise complaint from Bay 19, I already apologized. How was I supposed to know that frequency would make Krell reproductive organs vibrate? It's not like they teach interspecies biology in mechanic school.
This is not about noise, the officer said. The Engineers Guild has filed a formal complaint. They claim you are operating without proper certification and endangering station safety with unauthorized repairs.
Maya's hands stilled. Slowly, she straightened up and wiped grease on a rag. I endanger station safety? I fixed 37 problems in 3 weeks. Problems their certified engineers either couldn't solve or said weren't worth solving.
Nevertheless, regulations require certification for certain types of repair work.
The guild claims you are violating multiple station codes. Which codes specifically?
The officer consulted his datapad.
Unauthorized quantum system manipulation. Improper safety protocol adherence. Unregistered tool usage. Failure to submit proper documentation. The list is quite extensive. Maya felt a familiar anger building in her chest.
It was the same anger she'd felt back on Earth when government inspectors had shut down her father's shop for using non-approved repair methods, never mind that his methods worked better than the approved ones.
So what happens now? She asked quietly. The guild has requested a formal hearing.
If you cannot demonstrate proper qualifications, you will be prohibited from conducting repairs on the station.
You will have to leave Zenith 7 or find other employment. The hearing. The hearing room was designed to intimidate.
It sat at the center of the station's administrative section, a large circular chamber with seats rising in tiers around a central platform. Maya stood on that platform now, feeling very small and very alone. The guild had sent their best.
Master Engineer Vorith, a Krell whose shell bore the markings of 50 years' service, sat at the high bench.
Beside him were representatives from 6 other species, all wearing the formal robes of guildmasters. The gallery was packed. Word had spread that the human mechanic was being called to account, and apparently that was entertainment worth watching.
Maya spotted Captain Kelris in the crowd, along with several of her recent clients. Thraxos was there too, his expression unreadable.
Vorith's mandibles clicked as he read from a datapad.
Maya Chen of Earth, you stand accused of conducting engineering work without proper guild certification. How do you plead?
Not guilty, Maya said clearly.
I never claimed to be guild certified. I'm a freelance mechanic. I fix things. That's not illegal.
It is when those things are life support systems, propulsion drives, and quantum cores, Vorith replied.
Such work requires certification to ensure safety and reliability. You cannot simply attempt complex repairs because you feel confident.
I don't fix things because I feel confident, Maya shot back.
I fix them because they're broken and someone needs them working again.
And for the record, every single one of my repairs has been successful and safe.
A Haldane engineer spoke up from the bench. Success in 37 instances does not guarantee success in the 38th.
Proper protocols exist to minimize risk. You ignore these protocols.
I adapt them, Maya corrected.
Look, I respect what the guild does.
Really, I do. You've got standards and training and centuries of accumulated knowledge. That's important.
But sometimes your protocols don't account for the weird, specific problem in front of you.
Sometimes you need to improvise. Improvisation is not engineering, Voreth said flatly. It is gambling with people's lives.
Maya felt her temper rising.
You want to talk about gambling with lives?
3 weeks ago, Captain Kelris and her crew were stranded with a dead quantum core.
Your engineers said it couldn't be fixed.
Said they'd all die before rescue arrived.
I improvised, and now they're alive.
You tell me which approach gambled with their lives.
The gallery murmured.
Voreth's mandibles clicked in agitation.
A single success does not.
Then let's talk about the Haldane freight hauler in Bay 31, Maya interrupted.
Cargo bay door wouldn't seal.
Your engineers quoted 3 weeks for repair and 20,000 credits for parts. I fixed it in 4 hours with replacement parts that cost 200 credits. The hauler captain made his delivery on time instead of going bankrupt waiting for your official repair. She was on a roll now, anger giving her confidence. Or the Zended passenger ship with the air recycler that kept breaking down. Your team wanted to replace the entire system, 2 months installation time, 45,000 credits. I found the problem in the controller chip, replaced it with a reprogrammed backup, and had them running in 6 hours for 800 credits.
Those passengers included 3 families with young children. You want to tell them that safety requires they breathe filtered air for 2 months while they wait for the guild-approved solution? The challenge. Enough, Voreth commanded. Your passion is noted, but emotion is not evidence. You claim your methods are effective. Very well. Prove it.
He gestured, and a large holographic display appeared above the platform.
It showed a complex schematic of something Maya didn't immediately recognize.
This is a Zarvian phase modulator, Voreth explained. A critical component in subspace communication arrays. This particular unit has failed in a manner that has puzzled guild engineers for 2 weeks. If you can diagnose and repair it within 1 hour, using only standard tools available on this station, the guild will withdraw its complaint and acknowledge that your methods have merit.
And if I can't? Maya asked.
You leave the station immediately and agree never to conduct engineering work in guild-regulated space again. The gallery erupted in noise.
Captain Kelris stood up. This is unfair. You've given her a problem your own experts cannot solve.
We are giving her the opportunity to demonstrate her claimed abilities, Voreth replied calmly.
Surely 1 hour is adequate for someone who solves impossible problems as routine.
Maya studied the schematic, her mind racing.
She'd never seen a Zarvian phase modulator before.
Had barely heard of them. The design was alien to her, based on principles she'd only read about in passing.
This was a setup.
They'd chosen something specifically outside her experience, something they knew she couldn't fix, so they could prove their point and shut her down. A smarter person would have declined the challenge. Would have negotiated better terms, or demanded more time, or pointed out the obvious unfairness. But Maya Chen had grown up in her father's garage, learning that impossible was just another word for haven't figured it out yet.
I'll do it, she said. Bring me the modulator. The repair.
They brought out the device on a hovering platform. It was about the size of a shoebox, covered in strange crystalline protrusions that pulsed with faint light. Cables extended from its base like mechanical tentacles. Maya circled it slowly, pulling out her scanner. The device read as completely dead, no power, no signal, no response to diagnostic queries. But the crystals still glowed faintly, which meant something was happening inside.
Time begins now, Voreth announced.
Maya ignored him, focusing on the modulator. She ran her hands over its surface, feeling for heat, vibration, anything that might give her a clue. The crystals were warm, warmer than they should be for a dead device.
Thermal buildup. Something was generating heat but not doing any useful work. Energy going in but not coming out.
She pulled the connector panel open, earning gasps from the guild members. Apparently that wasn't the approved first step, and examined the power feeds.
All nominal. Power was reaching the device. So why wasn't it working?
Maya grabbed her multi-tool and started tracing circuits. The Zarvian design was strange, using crystalline pathways instead of traditional wiring, but the basic principle was the same: power in, function executed, signal out.
Except there was no signal out. The output channels showed zero activity. 30 minutes elapsed, someone called from the gallery. Maya tuned them out.
She was in the zone now, that mental state where everything else faded away and there was only her and the broken machine and the puzzle of figuring out why they wouldn't talk to each other.
She pulled out her datapad and did a quick search on Zarvian technology.
The articles were dense and technical, but one phrase caught her attention: phase modulators operate on harmonic resonance principles, requiring precise frequency alignment for signal propagation.
Frequency alignment. Harmonic resonance. Maya pulled up the diagnostic history the guild engineers had compiled. Pages and pages of tests, all focusing on power systems, crystal integrity, circuit continuity. But nothing about frequency calibration. She dove back into the research, skimming faster now.
There, a technical manual section on common failures.
Phase drift caused by extended operation can desynchronize harmonic frequencies, requiring manual recalibration using. The rest was behind a technical paywall that Maya didn't have credits to access. Typical. 15 minutes remaining. She stared at the modulator, thinking.
If it was a frequency problem, and the crystals were generating heat, that meant they were vibrating but not in sync with each other.
Like an orchestra where everyone was playing the right notes but in different keys. She needed to get them back in harmony. But how? Maya looked at her tools.
Standard sonic calibrator, electromagnetic probe, quantum scanner, her old multi-tool, a handful of connectors and adapters she'd accumulated over the years.
And her phone. Her ancient, obsolete by galactic standards Earth phone.
A crazy idea formed in her mind.
It was stupid.
It probably wouldn't work. Her father would have called it the dumbest plan in a lifetime of dumb plans.
But she was out of time and options. The solution.
Maya pulled up her phone's audio settings and opened the tone generator app she used for testing speaker systems. She set it to output a specific frequency, 440 Hz, standard concert A, the tuning note for musical instruments back on Earth. Then she pressed the phone against the modulator's crystal surface and hit play. A pure tone rang out through the hearing chamber. Several species covered their auditory organs in discomfort. The modulator's crystals began to pulse in response, their glow intensifying.
Maya watched her scanner, adjusting the frequency up and down, searching.
The crystals were responding, their vibrations shifting, trying to match the external signal.
5 minutes.
She fine-tuned the frequency, watching for the sweet spot where the crystal's internal resonance would sync up.
437 Hz. 438, 439. At 439.7 Hz, something clicked.
The crystals suddenly pulsed in unison, their glow shifting from random flickers to a steady, synchronized rhythm. Maya immediately grabbed her calibrator and locked that frequency into the modulator's control system. The device hummed, a sound like a choir finding its pitch.
Lights cascaded across its surface as systems came back online. The output channels lit up green on her scanner. Time, Voreth announced. Maya stepped back, breathing hard. Check your diagnostics. It's working.
A guild engineer rushed forward with proper testing equipment. He ran a full diagnostic sequence while the entire chamber held its breath. Finally, he turned to face Voreth.
Output signal is clean and stable. Harmonic alignment is within acceptable parameters. The modulator is fully operational. The gallery exploded into noise. Voreth's mandibles clicked rapidly, the Krell equivalent of shock. How? He demanded. We tested frequencies for days. We used proper calibration equipment, ran every standard diagnostic protocol.
You tested frequencies the manual said should work, Maya explained.
But this device was old, right?
The crystals had drifted over time, pulled by tiny imperfections and stress.
They weren't resonating at the factory standard frequency anymore.
They developed their own natural frequency, just slightly different.
I used an external tone to find that frequency and then locked it in. It's like tuning a guitar, you don't force the string to the note, You listen for where it wants to be and help it get there. You used a personal entertainment device, a Haldane engineer said in disbelief.
To repair a critical communications component.
I used what worked, Maya replied simply. Isn't that what engineering is supposed to be about?
The verdict.
Voreth was silent for a long moment.
Then, slowly, he rose from his seat. The other guild masters followed suit.
Maya Chen of Earth, he said formally. You have demonstrated capabilities that, while unorthodox, are undeniably effective.
You have also exposed a significant gap in guild diagnostic protocols. We have been so focused on following established procedures that we failed to consider adaptive solutions. He paused, mandibles working as if the next words were difficult to speak. The Guild of Certified Engineers hereby withdraws all complaints against you. Furthermore, we offer you provisional guild membership, pending completion of abbreviated certification coursework.
Your practical knowledge is evident. Some theoretical background would make you even more effective. Maya blinked in surprise. Wait, you want me to join?
The guild exists to promote excellence in engineering, a Haldane master said.
Excellence comes in many forms. We have been narrow in our definition. Your success rate speaks for itself.
However, Voreth continued, we do have conditions. First, you must agree to some basic safety training. Not because your methods are unsafe, but because understanding why the protocols exist will help you know when breaking them is justified.
Second, you must document your techniques. Other engineers should be able to learn from your approach. And third, Fraxos's voice rang out from the gallery. He stood up, all four arms spread wide. You must accept at least one assistant.
I volunteer for this position. The chamber fell silent again.
Fraxos was chief engineer of the station's maintenance division, a position of considerable prestige. You want to be my assistant? Maya asked in disbelief.
I want to learn how you think, Fraxos corrected.
I have spent 43 years following rules and procedures. They have served me well. But watching you work has shown me that I have become rigid.
I wish to learn flexibility.
To see problems through human eyes. Captain Kelris stood as well.
And when Maya finishes her work here, I would like to offer her a position aboard the Quantum Runner.
We are forming a new trading company.
Having a human engineer who can fix anything with wire and stubbornness would be a valuable asset.
More voices joined in, offers of work, requests for training, questions about human engineering philosophy. The hearing that was supposed to end Maya's career had somehow become a celebration of it. Voreth clicked his mandibles for silence. Maya Chen, what is your decision? Will you accept guild membership and share your knowledge?
Maya looked around the chamber, at all these aliens who had been ready to throw her off the station an hour ago, now offering her opportunities she'd never dreamed of. She thought about her father, who'd spent his life fighting against rigid regulations and narrow-minded officials who couldn't see past their rulebooks. He died still fighting that fight, still fixing things his own way despite everything they threw at him. He would have been proud to see her here. And he would have told her exactly what to do.
I'll accept guild membership, Maya said. On one condition.
The guild has to create a new certification track, not just for me, but for all the self-taught mechanics and engineers out there who know how to fix things but don't fit your traditional model.
Call it the Adaptive Engineering Certification, or the Improvisation Track, or whatever.
But make space for people who learned by doing instead of studying. That would require significant changes to guild structure, Voreth said slowly.
Then change it, Maya replied. The galaxy is full of broken things and people who need them fixed. Some of those things will need experts with decades of training and deep theoretical knowledge. Others will need someone who can look at a problem and think, what if I tried this really dumb thing?
There's room for both kinds of engineers. There should be certification for both approaches.
Voreth was quiet for so long that Maya thought she'd pushed too far.
Then his mandibles spread in what she'd learned was the Krell equivalent of a smile.
Agreed, he said.
The guild will establish an adaptive engineering track. You will help design the curriculum.
And you will be the first to earn that certification. He extended a manipulator limb. Maya shook it, human style, feeling the chitinous texture against her palm. Welcome to the guild, Master Engineer Chen. The title felt strange.
She was just a mechanic, really, someone who fixed things because they needed fixing. But if being a master engineer meant she could keep doing that, could help other people who thought like her find their place in the galaxy, then she'd wear the title with pride. As the hearing chamber emptied and people crowded around to congratulate her or ask questions, Maya felt her phone buzz with a new message. It was from her mother back on Earth, a simple text that had taken weeks to arrive across the interstellar distance. Your father would be proud. Keep fixing things, sweetie. The galaxy needs people who know that rules are just suggestions. Maya smiled and slipped the phone back in her pocket. She had work to do, a whole station full of broken things that needed fixing, and now apparently an assistant who wanted to learn the fine art of percussive maintenance. The galaxy would never be the same. And that was exactly how it should be.